As we try to unpack exactly what happened in last week's election and how Donald Trump won, there's one particularly disingenuous argument that has emerged.
I think one of the losers here is condescending identity politics.
We constantly try to parse out different ways of speaking to different cohorts because our focus groups or our polling shows that so-and-so appeals to such and such. That's not how normal people think.
The dominance of identity politics on the left, which made it push for all kinds of DEI policies that largely came out of the urban academic bubble, but alienated many mainstream voters.
The idea that identity politics was the problem for Democrats is laughable, considering it wasn't Vice President Kamala Harris who relentlessly focused on race or gender, either her own or anyone else's. That would be Donald Trump. In fact, it was Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, who ran an identity politics entire campaign focused on men. They have an identity, too, you know. I mean, Trump did walk out to the song, "It's a Man's World," at the Republican convention. And again, all the focus on identity politics came from Trump and Vance, not Democrats.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. We're talking a lot about Venezuela because Aurora is really infected by Venezuela, but they're coming from all countries.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
We will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools.
Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
Joining me now is Jason Johnson, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University and host of the podcast A Word with Jason Johnson. Jason, I got to tell you, man, I didn't listen to any Sunday TV, but I heard about it, and all I heard about was everybody screaming, "The Democrats did identity politics," and I'm like, what? You've got to be kidding me! What we just played was identity politics, no?
Not only is what you just played identity politics, not only is that what Trump has run on since he first came down the stairs 8 years ago, I am so sick and tired of supposedly progressive Democrats spouting this 1972 grad school nonsense that the inability to talk to working class white men is somehow the antithesis of DEI. Let's be clear. Everyone in this country has an identity. Whether your identity is as a man, as a woman, as non-binary, as trans, as black, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with speaking to people's identities because every politician does it. But somehow, if you ever speak to any identity that's not straight white men, somehow people think it's a problem. And that's what Trump has been doing the whole time. And this is the finger pointing that happens after a loss.
Let me prove it to you. Let me show you the exit poll. What Donald Trump did is he ran a campaign directly targeted at the amygdalas of men. He was trying to get men out. He didn't care about women. They were fine with attacking women because they knew that, you know, white women were going to vote majority for them anyway, regardless of how bad they attacked. It didn't matter. Only college-educated white women voted the other way. But they were so successful in ramming a campaign that was just men, men, men. They got white voters up from 67 and white Americans. They got white voters up from 67% of the electorate in 2020. We can show that to 71% of the electorate in 2024. So in 2020, the electorate was 67% white voters, and Biden won. And in 2024, it was 71% white voters. And the percentages of white voters for Biden and Harris were exactly the same. The difference was the volume of white voters who came out because Trump was successful at identity politics.
And specifically appealing to a version of whiteness that isn't just appealing to white people, but white aspiring Latinos and white aspiring non-black people who are in this country. That's the thing we have to understand if we're going to have real conversations within the Democratic Party, within the left, within any organization that is concerned about what happened last week. We have to understand that whiteness is not just genetic. It is a philosophy, it is an attitude, it's a belief system. It is about otherizing different kinds of people. So when Donald Trump can have a guest stand at Madison Square Garden and basically say, hey, all these terrible things about Latinos, large number of Latinos identify as white. So they don't see themselves as being insulted. There are Asian Americans who identify as white, at least vis-a-vis black and brown people. So this was a white identity politics, just like the Republicans have been the white party for 25 or 30 years now. An inability to address that is going to guarantee that Democrats stay in the political wilderness, as opposed to this ridiculous idea that this had to do with economic anxiety.
It also, as you said, being a man is an identity, too. Let's put up the numbers for exit polls of men. Donald Trump won men across the board, whether they were young, old, black, white, Latino, AAPI. This was a campaign that was targeted at men. And going on the podcast, the Bro podcast, the Manosphere podcast, that is also identity politics, saying we need men. Literally, Charlie Kirk on Election Day was on X Twitter saying, hey, we need the men to come out and vote.
Look, everybody from Charlie Kirk to Joe Rogan to former Tuckums, if he wasn't sunning himself in special places, thought it was really important for men to get up and stand out and vote for Donald Trump. And here's the thing we have to understand. Addressing what those men's needs are in a material way is not simply enough. Right? Because, look, men want better jobs. Men want a minimum wage. Men want minimum wage to go up. But what Trump appealed to was about male power and about men feeling disempowered in this country. And unfortunately, you hear some Democrats say the same thing. Oh, the Democrats are the party of women and scolds. No, that's only for weak men, to be perfectly honest with you. So we have to also address that if the Republican Party becomes the party of men, and the Republican Party is the party primarily of white men, then how is that actually addressed? You're probably not going to change those guys' minds, so you have to find the men who do agree with Democratic philosophies and turn them out.
And get them to vote. And I will note that the only time Kamala Harris addressed her race at all, she was asked by Dana Bash on CNN about whether or not she simply turned black, making her answer Trump's really ridiculous accusation. And she said, next question. She didn't talk about her race or her identity. No. Trump did. Jason Johnson, thank you very much. We'll be right back.